500 people were in there and the whole thing was freezing and then, then then it would have dropped.
For sure.
All right. And then my brother, we got Magic Eden making big, big moves in the space, right? So the first thing is that this was leaked on the Magic Eden website that you could choose when you were searching collections to search by either Ethereum or Solana. So everyone now and it's now been taken off. So they must have been testing. So everyone now is assuming, pretty much like guaranteed, that Magic Eden is going to, just like OpenSea is doing Solana NFTs, that Magic Eden is going to start hosting Ethereum
That's the alpha.
NFTs.
Let me text Cody real quick and be like, "Yo, come on my show for a few minutes and talk about this."
Cool. So that's the one thing. And the other thing is that they've launched a gaming investment fund. Let's just have a look over here. I think let's just read what the amount is instead of getting it wrong. So Magic Eden, the largest NFT marketplace in the Solana ecosystem, and has recently raised a war chest of funds. Today, the firm revealed Magic Ventures, a venture investment arm that will focus specifically on Web3 gaming to pursue that mission. The company had to hire Tony Zhao, formerly a Chinese gaming giant from gaming giant Tencent, as its head of gaming. Just want to see how big this fund was. I remember it being like 500 million, but 750 million.
I think I'm gonna actually
130 million. 130 million.
Christ.
Putting them at a 1.6 billion valuation. So unicorn, putting Magic Eden at unicorn status, basically, which is incredible.
After reading so scroll up a little bit, just like a tad. Okay, right there. So when maybe a little bit more. Sorry. Okay, so when I see it right there. So when I see things where they're talking about technical stuff like this, where those two paragraphs right there. Let me see, how can I put this? I watched a podcast the other day. Joe Rogan was the guest, right? And I noticed about halfway through that I don't particularly like watching podcasts where Joe Rogan is the guest. I don't actually think it's that interesting or fun or particularly like intellectually stimulating as much as when he's the podcast host. And I think it's because he's not quite an expert in anything. He's really good at conversations and bringing out expertise in other experts, but he's not himself. It doesn't sound like, at least from the podcast he's on and the stuff they talk about, he's particularly an expert in anything. He's just kind of like just knows a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff because he's talked to a lot of people. And, I'm headed in that direction and I've been on a lot of podcasts and I was like, shit, dude, like I've done some cool things and taken some big risks that are fun to talk about, but I'm not like an expert in something. And I was like, I should go become an expert in something. So that actually has come up in my head the last few days, is to learn something, whether that's gaming or whether that's fucking, I don't even know, like money, something specific in money or investing or something in that finance world. I kind of want to become an expert in that so I can have like a credential to lean on as well. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
You're an expert in social media creation, content creation in social media. You are.
Yeah, I guess so, but I would like to have something more dialed in that's more specific, because content creation, you can fluff that through a conversation very easily. You can say, oh, like post more, but
not everyone can get 6,000 followers on TikTok and 6,000 followers on YouTube and 6,000 followers on every single medium. I mean, anyone can come and start talking to a computer and call themselves a content creator, but you are a content creator. And that is just going to grow exponentially. But I think education is always great, like any form. If you want to learn about woodworking, I'm not saying you do. If one wants to, I think like always trying to learn new things that interest you.
I'm doing woodworking. Philip said it. Woodworking is the answer. That's where I'm rolling
with. But more so from a vocation perspective, like from your work, if you can add skills, the more the merrier. But I don't think it's right to say that like you don't have those specific skills.
I guess. Well, when I say that, I mean more like like Lex Fridman, for example. He's like, people would think, okay, he's a great podcast host. He's really interesting, but people don't know. Well, a lot of people do know, but some people don't know. He's also like a professor at this college, and he like studies robotics and studies coding. He's like an expert professional coder. And like Andrew Huberman's also a super interesting dude, talks about a lot of interesting things, but he's also a professional like scientist and researcher, and like has like a PhD and all this shit. And like that qualifies him and makes his talks that much more interesting because he is that. Whether or not he needs to use those credentials for anything, the fact that he has some of those credentials makes him more interesting to me as the viewer. And I'm like, okay, well, that's where I'm headed. I'm headed toward more intellectually stimulating conversations and philosophical discussions. It would help me to be qualified in some regard, just for my own like,
No,
I don't
I
even
mean,
know, you know.
fine,
So
but I heard like it used to be when I was at school, just that generation used to, of like primary school used to be like, you get your report, and let's just say, for example, you got like a great mark in maths, but your history mark was like a fail.
yeah,
Then what they would do, your teacher and your school and your parents, was they would get you extra history lessons. And I heard a really interesting talk that said, you know what, that's the wrong approach. You should get that child extra maths lessons, get him better at his
true,
strength, get him better where his natural ability lies, where he's happiest, rather than trying to teach him something that doesn't come naturally to him and that he might not, probably won't enjoy. And that's the shift in it, right? It's a
right,
generational shift. And I think you do see that now, like like with my kids at school, they'll say, look, your child is gifted in this area, like they're really good at maths, or and we want to cultivate that, and we want to feed that, so we're going to be giving them a bit of extra maths homework, right?
cool.
Which was unheard of 30 years ago. Like, why give him maths homework? So I
10
just thought
years,
of that. I mean,
5 years ago.
I don't, so I don't know. I don't know if that applies to you or not. Like, I would be saying, I would put more into learning more about things that you are doing, like better up your game. Not that you need to, but I'm just saying, like things that could up your game in that side of content creation,
Mm,
social media stuff. And I know you're great at photography, and maybe take that further, or videography, like study that properly.
I see what
Or
you're saying.
I would stick in my lane, but maybe educate myself there and
Okay.
become more there, because that will come naturally. But again, bro, I know nothing. I mean, honestly,
Well, I mean,
I'm
all
being
you're
serious.
saying is
Like,
just lean into the things you like and learn one of those, as opposed to just picking up
and where
something
your
random.
strength is already lying and where you're already going.
Yeah,
Because if you
yeah, I agree.
divert yourself in too many directions, you won't be building on the one side where you could, and you'll be struggling on the other side. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go be an
Try find
astrophysicist then.
That sounds perfect. Try find something that's within, that you can use within what your long-term plans are, right? Of
Agreed.
social media, content creation, something within that. So add a skill onto your existing skills and keep building skills onto that, would be what my first thought is.
Hell yeah.
All right, so we got Magic Eden looking very, very bullish. Then
You're not screen recording, or you're not sharing your screen.
now Kevin Rose acquires the team from Divergence. So that's basically